Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles.
I recently discovered something that completely shattered my world. My wife of 8 years is involved in sex work. Yes, she's a 304, getting paid to have sex with strangers. She works as a waitress at a truck stop about 20 miles away from our home in Hutto. I had to drop off some supplies for my boss at that truck stop to meet a driver heading north. It was easier for me to deliver the supplies, so he wouldn't have to detour. The load was 50 boxes of flooring that needed to reach Dallas the next day. My boss contacted the dispatcher, who then got in touch with the driver. The driver was on a mandatory rest break and would be leaving in 2 hours. So, I loaded up a box truck and headed north of Austin to the truck stop where my wife works. When I arrived and parked, I saw her getting out of a tractor cab with a man. They kissed, and he handed her money. There was no denying what had just occurred and what had been happening before. I called the driver I was supposed to meet on the CB, and he told me where he was parked. I found him. We loaded the flooring, and then I just sat there in the parking lot, unable to stop crying. After the driver left, I headed back to the construction site in Lakeway. I told my boss that the flooring was on its way and that I'd made the connection. He immediately noticed something was off. My usual cheerful self was gone. He pulled me into his office and closed the door behind us. "I know something's wrong, David," he said. "You left here happy, full of jokes. Now, your face is so long, I could ride to the Gulf on it. What happened?" "It's personal, Luke," I replied, my voice heavy. "I need to figure this out on my own. It's probably the hardest decision I've ever had to make. It's nothing against you, boss. I just need to work through this myself." "Wait a minute," he said, his voice softening. "You had to deliver that load where your wife works, right? Did the two of you have a confrontation?" "She never even knew I was there, Luke, but I saw her, and that's what I have to decide about." "Oh shit, man. I'm sorry, David. I take it that she was either not working when she was supposed to be, or she was doing something she shouldn't. I can see by your face she was doing something she shouldn't have done. What can I do to help, David?" "I'm not sure you can do anything. I do know that I need to get tested for AIDS and STDs." "What? Is Nora 304 ING out in the parking lot?" "That's it, isn't it? She's working the drivers that come in there and doing it in the parking lot, not upstairs in the driver's rest area because she doesn't want her boss to catch her. She will go on a break and go out there, then come back to work." "Oh God, I'm so sorry, David. Let me make a few phone calls, and then I'll come get you. Why don't you go to your truck and relax for a while? I'll come find you when I get done calling." "Yeah, I guess, and thanks, Luke. You're a great boss, but I really can't afford a divorce. I love my kids to death and I loved my Nora up until today, but I feel all dead inside. I'm not sure what I feel other than dead. I'll get a couple aspirin and be in my truck." I walked out of that office trailer in a fog. I got where I was going, but how I got there I couldn't say. I guess I should tell you some of my background. My name's David Earl Carter. I'm 35 years old, 6 feet 1 inch, 185 pounds, fit, and until this afternoon, I was madly in love with my wife, Nora. We have 3 children, Charity aged 7, Linda aged 5, and David Jr., RJ, at 4. I also love my kids. My kids. Are they really my kids? Only time will tell. God, what a mess my wife has left me with. I now doubt that the kids that I love almost as much as I loved my cheating 304 wife are really mine. How could that be? I was there for each birth and I had thought that I was there for each conception too, but I'm not sure now. Boy, that's a hell of a thing to start thinking, but after what I saw today, I have to think it may be a reality. My wife Nora is 32, 5 feet 6 inches, and around 110. She is gorgeous. Why she married me, I'll never know. I met her at the old Copeland and Dance Hall. I'm a damn good welder and all-around jack of all trades construction-wise. I work construction jobs in and around Austin, Texas. I learned welding in high school, then trade school, and I was even an apprentice carpenter for a while, swinging a hammer when I needed to find work. I ended up working on a job for Luke Turner. He liked my can-do attitude and my willingness to do anything to get the job done. He especially liked my welding skills. I was always upbeat and had a smile on my face. Why not? I had married Nora by then, and we had just had Charity. Luke took me under his wing, and I've been working steady ever since, instead of going from job to job, never knowing when that job would end and how long it would be before I found work again. Nora was working at the truck stop when I met her, and she was living with another waitress, Alice Cooper. I had my own trailer out in Hutto. I bought it from an old man who was going into a nursing home. His kids wanted to sell it, and they only wanted $2,500 for it since it was like 10 years old. I snapped it up and settled in. It was a 1993 Fleetwood 3-bedroom mobile home with master bedroom in front, a kitchen, and a living room. Off the hall on the left side were a laundry room, bedroom, bathroom, and the third bedroom at the end of the hall. I couldn't pass it up, as I was living out of my truck half the time. I would stay at places like the Salvation Army shelter or move to any shelter available or rooming house. I never had a permanent home because I was never in one spot long enough. I heard about this deal from one of the other workers on the job we were working on over in Taylor. The guy knew the kids and was trying to get word of mouth out to try to sell the place. The old man had kept the place up real good. The lot rent was like $100 a month, and then utilities were another $200 a month. My own place for $300 a month sounded great to me, and I jumped on it. I now had a home. I was spending a Saturday night dancing at the Copeland Inn down Highway 95 in Copeland shortly after that, and that's when I met Nora Howard. I think it was 3 months later when I brought her home with me, and we made love in my bedroom. That was all it took for me. We were married 6 months later, and Charity was born about 10 months after that. It was about a year later when Luke found me and hired me full-time. I was now making almost $800 a week working for Luke, and that, plus Nora's money from her waitressing job, allowed us to get by quite well. I now knew why her tips were so high. She said she made about $30 to $40 a day in tips working 4 days a week. She is making a hell of a lot more than that unless she is just giving it away for $5 a pop. I wondered where it all was. Hell, I might never find out, but I did know one thing. I was through with that 304. I knew I couldn't afford a divorce, even if I could find out where all her money was stashed. I knew I would have to talk about all this with Luke again. I fell asleep in my truck, pondering my mess of a marriage. Salvador Garcia, a co-worker of mine, knocked on my truck window. I rolled the window down. Yeah, Sal, what's up? Boss wants to see you ASAP. Do you know what for? Nope. He just said to look for your truck and to tell you to come right away if you were there. I was to find you if I didn't see you here. That's all I know. Thanks, Sal. See you later, I hope. I walked into the site office trailer, and I was immediately ushered into Luke's office by Becky Thompson, the clerk. Have a seat, David. You're working late tonight, so call Nora and let her know. You have no idea how late right now, okay? Sure, boss. I called the truck stop restaurant and asked for Nora. It was important. I normally didn't call unless it was an emergency, so they knew something was up. David, Nora isn't available right now. I think she's in the bathroom. Do you want me to have her call your work? No, Brenda. I just wanted to let her know I have to work late tonight, and I'm not sure when I'll get home. Would you tell her that? Sure. I'll let her know, David. Bye. Yeah, bye, Brenda. I hung up and looked at Luke with a question on my face. David, I want you to drive over to the South Austin Medical Center hospital there over off Ben White. You know where it is, right? I nodded. Okay, you will be tested for STDs and get a DNA test. I checked with the school officials in Hutto, and they do DNA testing on all children that come into their school system. So Charity and Linda should have already been tested. DJ is who we have to get something for. When you come into work tomorrow, we need a couple of hairs with the root attached, or his toothbrush if he's the only one who uses it. If you can't do that, then take a cotton swab and swab the inside of his mouth to get some saliva and put it into a plastic zipper bag and bring it to the same guy you see for your test at the lab there today. Just tell them I sent you over for some tests. Next, you will have lifted something wrong tonight and have a groin pull. Nothing serious, but no lovemaking for a couple of weeks. Then I have a different job for you when you get to work. You need to say that you have to be in Dallas to start a new job by Monday morning. The pay is more, and you'll get benefits too. You'll actually be going to Victoria. DuPont is having some expansion going on down there, and that's where you will be working. Your new boss will be Henry De Silva. He's a friend of mine and a real good guy. You'll get along fine if you work for him like you have for me. How's your Spanish? Justo Midland. Jeef. Yo puedo conseguir por. Fair to Midland, boss. I can get by. BR. I guess so. You almost speak like a native. 3 years in high school, plus my grade school stuff too. I started school in Laredo, and then moved to Mathis. I finished up in FAR. My dad was kind of like me, a guy who found work where he could. I lost touch with him 5 years ago. He was in Colorado last I heard. My brother, James, is in California, working at a winery in Napa Valley. One of my sisters is a nurse in St. Petersburg, and the other is an accountant back northeast somewhere. I haven't heard from her in like 3 years. We're kind of spread all over. I was the last born and the least educated. Money was getting tight by the time it came time for me to go to college, so I went to trade school for a while and learned welding. I don't regret it. Sure, I could have made more money, but I love what I do. Believe me, David, you are damn good at welding and anything else I've asked you to do. You keep this up, and you'll be a site foreman before too long. No way, boss, you need the schooling for that, and that's not me. I'll just keep doing what I know. Okay? All right, David, But just do what I say for right now, and tomorrow, I'll have all the paperwork for you to start at DuPont on Monday. I will let you know once we have the results back on the tests. You can come up here for a weekend, or I will come down there, and we can talk. We'll work it out when the time comes. Why, boss? Why are you doing this for me? I'm not anyone special. I'm just a worker bee. I'm so low on the totem pole that I hardly even warrant your notice. I kind of promised Big Earl that I wouldn't say anything, David, but your old man got me started in business back in Uvalde almost 30 years ago. I think you guys were living in Mathis by then. Anyway, your dad asked me if I would kind of look after you kids if anything happened to him. Nothing ever happened. Then I found out you were working on the Sterling job. I ran across your name, and I saw a lot of your father in you when you were pointed out to me. I heard that you were running from job to job, just trying to stay employed. I talked to a couple of your past employers and found out you were an awful lot like your dad, dependable and a hard worker. I knew I could help you, so I did. I remembered that promise, and that's why, David. I owed Big Earl, and I always repay my debts. Now, you know nothing of this conversation as far as your family is concerned, right? All I know is I have to start a new job in Dallas on Monday. I guess I'll need to get me a cell phone, huh? Stop by Radio Shack or Walmart when you leave town Friday and get a burner phone, David. You pay for the minutes you plan to use each month, so no major plan, and you should have a 512 area code by getting it here, so no one can know where you're located. Now you have places to go tonight, right? You bet, boss. See you in the morning. I went back to my truck and ran my errands. I asked for Gary in the lab at the hospital, and a short guy with red hair came out and asked me my name. I showed him my driver's license, and he had me follow him. I was asked to pee in a cup, then he took a swab of my inside cheek and took 2 vials of blood. He handed me one of their swab things and said to swab the inside of my son's cheek, then put it into a plastic zippered bag and keep it cool. If I could, I should do it in the morning before I came in. I said no problem and left. I had seen a track phone at Walmart for like 10 or 15 bucks, so I stopped off there on my way home. I could get the phone in 120 minutes for less than $50. I would have to look into that on Friday, which was payday for me. I had less than 30 bucks in my wallet right now since I had to get gas coming home. This was Wednesday, so what I had would have to last me till then. Maybe I could talk Nora out of some gas money till Friday. I finally got home at 8:30. I was tired, and I was angry. I was all kinds of things, but I was mainly dead inside. I played with the kids since they were still up, while Nora warmed me some leftover mac and cheese that the rest of them had for supper. I told Nora that I had pulled something in my groin and had to go to the doctor for some pills. Gary gave me a pill bottle with some pills in it and told me they were really sugar pills that looked like Vicodin, like the bottle said. So I kind of hunched over like Gary told me and just moved slowly. As I ate, I mentioned that there was some talk about sending several of us up to Dallas for a year-long job. It would be 6 days a week, so the money would be good. I said that I may have to go there to work. I really didn't want to go to those lengths, but work was work. I figure if Nora was hoarding the money, she just might ask me to stay, and she would help out more for a while. No such luck tonight. She was pissed at first, then she thought about it a little more, and said that she thought she could manage somehow. I wasn't sure that I liked her answer. I went right to bed after my supper. Nora came in a couple hours later and snuggled. I groaned, and she left me alone. I was able to swab DJ's mouth before Nora got up Thursday morning, since today was one of her days off, telling him that I was checking for proper toothbrushing. He didn't object too loudly, and then I was gone to the hospital and Gary. I turned the swab stick in and went to work. Luke called me into the office after lunch, about 1:30. David, here is a debit card for your new bank account where most of the additional money will be going into. About half of your normal pay will still be going into your main checking account, and Nora will continue paying the bills from that account just like always. The rest of your pay will be going to a bank with a branch in Victoria that has issued this card. Did you get a phone yet? Not yet. I didn't have the money for one last night. I'll have to wait until Friday. I saw the great plan at Walmart for 120 minutes for like $40 something. I'll get it Friday after I leave for Victoria. Not a problem, David. I can handle that for you. Now, here are the directions to the plant and who to see once you get there. Here is a place for you to live while you are down there. As far as anyone knows, you're going up to Dallas as a troubleshooter for me. I have been grooming you for that job for the past year. That's why I've had you doing so many other jobs around here. You may not know it, but I really depend on you, and now you'll be gone. But I know that what you learn on the next 2 jobs I have set up for you will set you up as a site foreman for me anywhere I happen to send you. I knew you had the potential, and it was coming close to the time when I could work you into that job, but this matter has just accelerated it a bit for both of us. Are you sure of this, Luke? I know what you promised my dad, but are you sure I'm ready? You've been ready for 6 months now, David. I'm trying to get you away from your problems here at home until we can find out more about what Nora is doing and has done to you. David, I hate a liar and a cheat. She is both right now. But I'm going to owe you huge for all this, Luke. How can I ever repay you for all your help? When you get to be in a position like I'm in, or even sooner, if it comes along, I want you to help someone deserving a break like I'm giving you. That's what it will take to repay me, just like I'm repaying Big Earl for helping me along the path to where I am today. Besides, in a couple of years, I expect to see you going to school to get the education you need to do my job one day. Boy, you don't want much, do you, Luke? Only what you're capable of, David. Only that. So are we good? Yeah, we're good. Good. Now get back to work and quit being so lazy. Yes, boss. Good. Now go find me that big, dumb Swede, Oli Lopez, and tell him I need him in here yesterday. He's going to be my new Carter. I left and went to find Oli. Oli had a Swedish mother who was 6'4", 240, and a Latino father who was 5'5" and 120. They fell in love when she reset his arm after he broke it some 30 years ago. Oli was one result. He had 2 sisters and 3 brothers at home or in school elsewhere. He took after his mother's side of the family. He was 6'5" and 210 with a very dark complexion and black hair. He wasn't hard to spot in our crew of mostly short men. He and I were the tallest guys in our crew of 50 guys. We had a lot of taller subcontractors, BR, but none taller than Oli. I spotted Oli and called out to him, "Hey, Oli, Luke wants to see you in the office." "Gotcha, David. Be right there." He finished speaking with a couple of subs, then came down the ladder. "You know what this is all about, David?" "I'm not sure, but I think you just got promoted to my job. I'm going up to Dallas as a troubleshooter." "Hey, congrats, David. You deserve it. I'm real happy for you." "Thanks. You better get a move on," he said yesterday, not today. I laughed as we parted. I went to the site foreman to check in and find out what he wanted me doing today. Nora was pissed at me when I told her that I was leaving for Dallas Saturday morning. I said I would call her when I got there, but the job was a promotion and we needed it to survive. I said that I could turn it down and still work here locally if we had more money available. She cried and told me goodbye that morning, and I never looked back. I got a phone call from Luke a month later. "David, Luke here. I got the results back from all your tests. First, no STDs, no AIDS either. So that much is good news, but the rest is very bad. The kids aren't yours. Zero chance that you are the father. Nora is definitely the mother, but each child has a different father. God, I am so sorry to have to tell you this. I know you love those kids. At least you now know. I have some other news that I'm not sure if it's good or bad. You know her mother and dad have been keeping the kids. She sent them to her parents and had them transferred to a school near them. Man, I'm real sorry I had to be the bearer of such bad news, David, but I thought you needed to know." Luke calls again 2 months later. Nora was arrested by an undercover cop posing as a driver today. They got her for trade and soliciting. She and 4 of the other waitresses were brought in on the sting, along with Brenda. Brenda is the one controlling the whole thing. They all got nailed, so I guess your troubles are over. You can divorce Nora with a minimum amount of cost and no fuss. With her convicted and in prison, the divorce would be granted with no waiting period. Yeah, that's a little good news, boss, but I really did love the bitch. She got what she deserved, but it still leaves me cold. The kids are going to be the ones hit the worst. They lost their father, and now they've lost their mother. It's not fair, but it is what it is. I suppose I can come home now, huh? I actually need you here more than ever. Oli ended up taking the Dallas job. I really had an opening for a site foreman there. I kind of need you back home with me. I'll understand if you don't want to come back here. It's my home. I own that hovel I call home, and I really miss the kids, Luke. Do you think I can maybe get them back? There's a possibility. I mean, you're listed as the father on their birth certificates, so I suppose you could argue that with you home and working steady, you could get custody back. Is that what you really want to do, David? I really don't know right now, Luke. Let me think on it for a couple of days, and I'll let you know. Besides, I'll need to let Henry know that I want to go back to Austin. I don't want to leave him in a lurch here. I'll call you with my decision in a couple of days. I pondered the question over and over in my head until I was getting this huge headache. I love them to death, even though those kids weren't really mine. I didn't think that I could really give them up. Besides, they really needed me as a steady influence in their lives. Dennis and Kate Howard lived in East Austin. It wasn't the same middle-class neighborhood it was 30 years ago, and was just now starting to be revived, but all of the kids' friends were in Hutto and everything. I know that it will probably be hard and expensive to get them back into my custody, but I was damn sure going to try. I guess I had made my decision. I explained the situation to Henry the next morning, but he already knew. Luke had called him last night. I said I would stay 2 weeks so he could try to find someone. He said, "You are going to be hard to replace, David, but the guy who has been following you around since you got here 3 months ago is your replacement. You've been training him to replace you." Luke thought I could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I would have you here where I really needed a site foreman, and I could assign a guy with you to learn everything along with you. So if you need to leave tomorrow, go. Go get your kids back. They need their dad. Thanks, Henry. I'll let Thurman know he has the job now. I'll finish the day out, pack tonight, and drive home tomorrow. You have been a terrific boss just like Luke has been. I'll work for you anytime. Let me know if you need anything. Go. I need to get some work out of you if I'm going to have to pay you for today. Yes, boss. I was out the door and I was happier than I had been in almost 4 months. That night, I let my landlady know that I would be packing up and leaving on Friday. I really hate leaving you, Mrs. Tuttle, but I've paid to the end of the month and I have to leave a week early. I don't think you will have any problem renting the place over your garage. I mentioned it to a couple of my coworkers, and Dave Cornstubble or Juan Herrera will be contacting you about your place. You have been like my own mother looking after me, and I greatly appreciate it. But the thing is that I might be getting my kids back, and you know how much I miss them. I may not be their real father, but they're my kids nonetheless. David, dear, I've already gotten a call from both young men. They say they can share the place. You know the couch is a sleeper sofa, right? No, ma'am. I just used the bed. So you'll be fine then. They are both good men, honest and hard workers. I'm so glad you will be protected, and you can mother a couple more guys. I wish you the very best, David. I know you'll be a good father to your children. Good luck, she said as she reached up and kissed me on the cheek. I was going to miss her in a way. She always had me over for supper and was great company. Her 5 children were scattered to the wind, but they always called and visited at least twice a year. She was blessed with good kids. I hoped that my 3 would be the same. I was packed up and on my way north by 8 a.m. on Friday morning, and I was home by noon. The place was a mess. It looked like Nora had been bringing men home with her. I saw heavy dual-wheel tracks in my lawn in the dirt driveway. My God, what a 304 I had married. I threw all the bedding out and even got a new bed for the master bedroom. All of her clothes were packed in some plastic bags, and I set them aside for right now. I found out from Luke that Nora was charged with 3 counts of soliciting and 1 count of aggravated promotion of trade, that being investing in and controlling the operation of trade. It seems that once caught, Alice rolled over on the whole operation. Brenda was the pimp, or she looked for and suggested to drivers that comfort could be provided for a price. She was in this position because she was the main cashier. Alice, Barbara, and Shelley were the comforts, as well as Brenda and Nora. Nora was the brains behind the whole thing. She was the boss and had been caught several times before, but had paid the fine and gone on her way. The county sheriff put in a sting operation this time, along with the DPS. This netted the whole works. She had close to $2 million stashed in 5 different banks in the area, between the savings accounts and safe deposit boxes. Nora had been doing this since high school, and when she met me, I became her legitimacy or fall guy, depending upon what happened. She felt that being married would somehow throw suspicion off of her, but if push came to shove, she could say that it was all my idea. She even tried that at first, but all the money was in her maiden name and not mine. Then how could I run this empire from Dallas, where I supposedly was? I left for parts unknown when the investigators were 2 months into the investigation. This was before any actual arrests were done. The detectives contacted Luke and he explained the situation, why I was where I was, and not where she thought I was, and I was cleared. Things happened on a fast track after I got home. I was granted a divorce just by paying court costs, and I was awarded full custody of my kids, even though it was brought up by her lawyer that I wasn't the father of her children. I said I didn't care. I was there for them, and they were my kids, whether or not I was their biological dad. Luke had gotten me a great lawyer, and the children were legally mine when we came out of that courtroom. They said that with no way of finding out who the fathers were, I was it. Things were hard for a while. The kids were very confused, and there was some taunting at school, until I went to the superintendent of the school district and had a nice long sit-down talk with him. I had tried talking to the teachers, then the principal of the school, and it wasn't getting any better. I explained to him that I would file a lawsuit, charging them with encouraging a hostile environment for my children, if the situation didn't change very soon. Things suddenly changed almost overnight. When some child started ragging on either of my girls and a teacher was near, the student who started the taunt or rumor was sent to the office and disciplined. Parents got involved, and since I was working steady and had most evenings free, I also attended PTA meetings. One woman got up during one PTA meeting and addressed the crowd, saying that her daughter was disciplined for repeating a rumor that the Carter children were scumsucker and had a 304 for a mother. It was not said in those exact words, but that's what she meant. There were several others who spoke up about the change in the school attitude regarding the Carter children. DJ was in kindergarten by now, so I tried to make most of the school events and meetings. I stood to be recognized and said, "I'm David Carter, and the children that you refer to are my children. Yes, they are not my biological children, but they are my kids. I love them just like you love your children. They didn't ask to be born of a loose woman, but we were married when they were all born and conceived, which may be more than some of you can claim. I know about your precious angel, April, Mrs. Thornberry. You were married and April was born 7 months later, right? Now, as for the rest of you, you blame the children for the sins of the mother. Well, what about your mothers? Were they saints like you were suggesting that you are? I'm not sure, because I really don't know, but you are condemning my children for what their mother was. Have any of you stopped to think how I felt when I found out about my ex-wife's activities? How about my children? How do you think they feel about having a mother who did what she did and treated me and them like she did? Not such a nice thought, huh? I once heard this expression, before you condemn a person you should walk in their shoes for a while before you decide. The thing is that I was duped too. She married me to help disguise the fact that she was of loose morals. I never knew until I saw her coming from a truck one day, counting money after kissing the driver. I died inside that day. How could my loving wife do that to me? My boss had me go away for a while to cool down, so that I didn't do anything drastic to hurt my wife or my children. I paused here because the tears were making it so that I couldn't see, and I needed a moment to gather the strength to continue. When I returned, my wife had been arrested in a sting operation that had been ongoing for almost 6 months. I struggled with the predicament I found myself in. I was able to get a divorce and I fought to retain my children. They were my kids, no matter who their fathers were. I'll say it right now so that there is no mistake. My children have 3 different fathers, and God only knows who or where they are, but they are my kids. I love them like there is no tomorrow. Except for DJ, they know about their mother, and that I am not their real father, but they don't care. I'm their dad, and that's the end of it. Maybe someday I can find a woman who isn't scared off because I have 3 kids, and who is willing to enter into the menagerie that we call a family. Until then, I fully intend to raise my children to be honest and hardworking people that I will be proud to call mine. With the amount of complaints I hear from my children, and what I heard here tonight, I'm not sure that all of you can say the same about your children. So either crucify me and leave my children alone, or crucify my children because of an accident of birth. They were born from sin. Doesn't the Bible say, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone"? Well, aren't you all casting stones at me and my children? I think I have said enough tonight. I'll be leaving and I won't return until I can be assured that this goes no further than this room, and that my children will not be tormented again. Good evening all. I left the room to a stunned audience. I drove home hoping and praying that I hadn't just screwed up again. If so, maybe we needed to move somewhere where no one knew us and we could start fresh. It was almost 10 when I got home. Rose was sitting in my rocker or recliner with a very funny look on her face. Rose was an older widowed lady in the trailer park who used to look after the kids after school when they were young. This was Rose Nyland. She was probably close to 70, but she was great with the kids. Rose said, "I received the strangest phone calls in the past few minutes, David. You went to the PDA meeting tonight, didn't you?" "Yes, Rose, I just came from there." "Why?" "Well, I have 4 messages for you. One from Kathy Bates, the PDA chairwoman. She wanted me to tell you, right on, Mr. Carter." Then a Bertha Henning said, "It's about time someone said something." The other 2 were much the same. What happened there tonight? I sat down on the couch and explained much of what went on and what I had said. Rose looked over at me and said, "It's about time those holier-than-thou biddies had someone talk down to them and their hoity-toity ways. I figured that you would get some flack about something once I got Mary Smith's call, but 4 good results so far. Congratulations, David. You may just have changed some of the small minds out there tonight. Would you mind walking me home? I'm not getting around quite like I used to." "I would be honored to escort you home, Rose." I walked her home and made sure she was safe and locked up tight. I walked home and thought that I needed to do something nice for Rose. She never asked for money for sitting with the kids, even before when they were younger. I knew she was getting older and having trouble getting around outside the trailer. She had a home very similar to mine, but I think it was a Champion mobile home. She had 4 steps to get to her deck. I think I will build a ramp with a railing for her, and maybe see if I can find a cheap scooter or power chair. I might even see if some of my crew would like to help out. The deck is pretty solid as some of the guys, and I built that for her a couple of years ago. I would have to see what I could find. That all happened 4 years ago. Nora was sentenced to 7 years in prison, and Brenda got out after 2. The rest were dismissed with time served. Now my problem is Charity. She needs a mother's influence, and I may have found someone, but we are going slowly. I was burned pretty badly in my first marriage, and I took a couple of years to just love on my kids and let them know I fought for them even though I'm not their biological dad. I think Charity is the one who finally realized what I had done to keep them a family and to love them enough to fight for them. They like their grandparents, but really didn't want to live with them all the time. Rose Nyland was great, but Charity and Linda would soon need a younger woman to confide in and explain about the changes in their body, sex, and stuff. I tried to explain when the kids had questions, but there were some things I was just not fully prepared to discuss, and periods and such were one of them. That's why I started actively looking for a new mother for my kids a year ago. That's when I met Clara Donnelly. I met her at a country dance place in Pflugerville called Graham Central Station. It is like 6 nightclubs all in one location and with one admission price. They have different venues and themes for each club. Me, I'm into country, two-step, line dancing, and waltzing. So I usually hang out at the Denim and Diamonds Club. Clara and I just started dancing. We got to know each other better, and I really liked what I saw in her. I explained my past after the 10th date, and that I was really looking for a wife and mother for my kids. I had told Clara about my kids on the 2nd date, and she didn't shy away, so I slowly pursued her. I brought her to a family date and picnic lunch at Old Settlers during the All British Car Show. We had a great time. The kids loved her, and so did I. Luke and I hired a PI to check Clara out. I told the guy that he had to be discreet or I would surely lose her if she found out. Luke said he had just the guy from Falcon Investigations. After 3 weeks of looking, the report came back that she was clean and everything she claimed to be. I happily paid the guy, and that's when I asked her the big question, and she said yes. We are due to get married in 2 weeks' time. Am I happy? You bet. Happier than I have ever been in my life. I have 3 great kids and I have a new woman who will shortly be my wife. I had a nice college fund building for the kids' future, and I think I finally found someone with whom I can spend the rest of my life. Oh yeah, I'm Luke's troubleshooter and site foreman when needed. I even have an associate's degree saying so. I have a few hours left for my bachelor's degree in construction engineering. Life now is good, better than it ever was. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.